Today's episode of the Bill Simmons Podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network, brought to you by SeatGeek, our presenting sponsor. I've told you this a million times. Buy and sell tickets in 2 taps on your phone. Everything fully guaranteed. NBA fans, $30 off your first SeatGeek purchase on NBA tickets. A very popular league that is in motion right now. Use promo code NBA Palooza. That promo code expires on November 1st. You do not have a lot of time left. You get $30 off. Come on. Download the SeatGeek app or go right to SeatGeek.com. We are also brought to you by the Rewatchables, where we have a new podcast going up this week. Face Off. Oh, yeah. Travolta, Cage, me, Chris Ryan, Shea Serrano, Jason Concepcion. 4 of those 6 people did this podcast. So you can listen to it. Subscribe to the Rewatchables feed. It's my favorite Ringer podcast. I'm biased. I hosted a bunch of them, but we hit a whole bunch of movies that you've watched a million times, and we hit them in profound, deep, and important ways. This episode of Face Off had the word, actually, I won't even say the word. It had dirty words in it. But you can check that out. We have The Fugitive coming next week, too, so you have plenty of time to watch that. Don't forget about theringer.com. That's where you can find my column every Friday, as well as a whole bunch of great stuff, including today we had some great basketball pieces, but we also, Katie Bakes did a feature on A-Rod, who has completely rejuvenated his public personality as a Fox TV analyst for these baseball games. Check that out. Check out all the stuff we got going in. Don't forget about the other Ringer Podcast Network stuff. Don't forget about this podcast. We did a special BS podcast on Tuesday with Jack O, which never talked to him about the Yankees. So we did Yankees. He really went after Joe Buck and John Smoltz and a whole bunch of other stuff. It was a quickie one. It was like 30 minutes. We put that up Tuesday, and then we had Cousin Sal and I did our Monday podcast as well. Coming up right now, Pearl Jam. Then we're going to talk to Raptors GM Masai Ujiri and a little Chris Ryan, disgruntled Sixers fan. But first, here are the boys from Pearl Jam. Chris Ryan is here. What's your title at the Ringer? I can't remember. Executive editor?
Yeah.
Executive editor. Host of 2-Day NBA Palooza.
Yeah.
We taped with Masai yesterday, and I was going to run that, but there's so much weird NBA stuff going on. I wanted to talk with somebody for 15 minutes. Who better than you? Sixers fan. The Sixers, every time the process seems like it's finally running smoothly, something weird happens. Markelle Fultz, he's looked weird this whole season.
So can we lay it out a little bit? He looked fine in summer league, and he hurt his ankle.
He looked preseason, real season.
Yeah, and then something happened in October. He was playing in an inter-squad scrimmage at Penn and at the Palestra, and his free throw shot looked like it was the 3rd free throw he'd ever taken in his life.
Yeah,
like he was like a late adult, like continuing education. I'm picking up a new hobby late in life, and that was worrying. That was troubling for a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And since then, there came out information about he's had this shoulder thing that's been bothering him, and it forced him to change his mechanics. He'd been adjusting his shot to compensate for this injury. There was also talk about how he had done a little bit of independent study and just decided to change his mechanics.
Oh, not good.
Yeah. So this has been kind of hovering over him for his entire preseason, and he gets out there, and you know what he looked like? A rookie.
Yeah.
He just looked like a rookie.
He looked like a 19-year-old.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, go back and look at some other guys' first 3 games.
Yeah.
Not that big of a deal.
Paul Pierce, I remember when he looked like a rookie.
Andrew Wiggins looked like a rookie.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant looked like a rookie until January of his rookie year.
Everything was fine except for the free throw shooting part and the part that he's not shooting threes at all, which was such a big piece of what he was allegedly supposed to be.
Right. He was supposed
not
to be
doing
like
either of those things.
He can play off the ball. Simmons can run point. It's going to be fine.
He was supposed to be conceivably this 50-40, 85 percentage guy who could slash and kick and get the lane. He has the spin move. I mean, he has this one great move. I don't know if I buy the shoulder thing 100%. I wonder how much of this is psychological. I wonder if his shoulder hurts a little bit.
That's where we are today. So yesterday afternoon, Fultz's agent, Raymond Brothers, spoke to Woj, said Fultz has been trying to gut it out for the team.
Right.
He had some fluid drained from his shoulder, but he's trying his best.
First of all, don't say anything, Raymond Brothers.
Don't
say anything.
And then
Don't say gut it out for the team. It's game 4.
later in the
Nobody
day,
needs to hear from you.
He walks it back and says, "Actually, I got the direction of the fluid wrong. It
Yeah.
wasn't getting taken out. He got a cortisone shot in. I misspoke.
Right.
The point still stands. He's got shoulder problems." So then this morning, our time, Sixers put him on ice for 3 days. They're going to check out the shoulder. They're essentially, I think, the big picture is they are taking him out of the public eye. They do not want the eyes of America on Markelle Fultz against Dallas or whatever the next game is.
It's smart.
And so he's going to sit for a couple of games. And Brian Colangelo gave a press conference today in which I think he sold me a used Honda. I'm not sure. And talked about structural damage, how there wasn't any structural damage. He's got a lot of confidence as a kid, but he's maybe lacking some confidence. And it was just a lot of double speak and stuff like that. And it's just another bungled Sixers medical situation. And
Well,
it's like,
let's go there first. There's 3 components to this. One is that this is now 4th or 5th time in the last 4 years
yeah, so
where the
it's
Sixers medical staff has done a complete disservice to one of their young players.
and not just like, oh, we screwed up
whoops.
Hollis Thompson's shoulder. It's like
Yeah.
these guys are huge investments.
Yeah.
Not that I love Hollis Thompson, but like this is like you can't screw these guys up.
You've thrown away 4 to 5 years here to try to build around these 3 people. You cannot misdiagnose anything about those people at
Right.
any point in time. And yet we've seen it over and over again. And last year was a little sinister because they made it seem like Ben Simmons was going to come back. And then as soon as the season ticket deadline passed, when they got everybody's money, they were like, they shut him down.
There's theories
Which
like
is-
that. There's
not a theory. That's what happened.
And there's been a series of like even this year with the Embiid minutes limit, which was of course, like I've like other Sixers guys talk about this. Like he's a valuable, precious piece. You have to have a minutes limit. You can't just be like, okay, go out there and play 38 minutes a game. He's also enormous.
Yeah.
He's not going to play that much. But because of the way it got messaged, whether it was like sources say or whatever, it's like, oh, Embiid's only going to play 15 minutes a game, and everybody freaked out. And Embiid was like, it's bullshit.
The messaging has been really badly, and they seem to not have a right handle on how crazy their fan base is. And I mean crazy in a good way for the most part.
In a great way, yeah.
Their fan base has suffered through 4 horrible years to get to the point they got to this summer. And the excitement and the hype and all that stuff was just ratcheted up to unrealistic proportions. There was nobody in this whole Philly franchise to be like, hey, wait a second. We're young. Like, we're not a playoff team yet. We're building around all young people who haven't done anything yet. Like, let's calm it down. Like Joel Embiid. Like, this is what KOC was talking about when we were all talking in the Slack about it. Like, manage the expectations, not on the public, but manage your players a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid, it's not good for you to start feuds with people and talk shit and act like you're a 5-time All-Star when you played 31 games.
I don't
like,
see the thing
ease
that I
into
don't
it.
mind about I like that because
Why?
One thing the Sixers have lacked is like a competitive spirit in the last couple of years. They now have a guy who's like, I don't care who I'm playing. Like why? I mean, like if we like it in Draymond, we don't like it in Embiid.
Draymond's done stuff.
Yeah, I know, but like I mean, like I don't feel like what Embiid is doing is like talking trash when he hasn't. Like I feel like what he's doing is he's like, I'm not gonna let anybody punk this team anymore.
I think humility is.
I'm not interested
valuable
in
for
humility in
him.
NBA. Come on, what is this? What are you talking
Well,
about?
they're playing.
You want it to be Bob Corker playing
I
forward
think
for
they're
you?
a
Like
young team that hasn't done jack shit yet.
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Just settle down,
But
everybody.
if Andre Drummond's talking trash and Embiid thinks he can punk Drummond, then I'm glad Embiid's talking back to him.
I guess. Why is Joel Embiid shooting threes? Like, why isn't he near the basket?
Because he can. Because I mean, I
Is
understand.
that where you want him?
It's not
You want him
necessarily.
25 feet from the
I don't
basket?
love Embiid playing the Garnett spot out on the top of the key. I'd like him to get closer to the basket.
Because he's 7'3".
And I
That's your
also
expert
think
opinion?
that he's in Simmons' way a little bit. I think
Yeah.
that there's like a little. You cannot have 2 7-foot guys standing at the top of the key trying to run stuff.
Yeah. I think they've put this team together as a collection of assets without really any thought to how all of those assets move together because they weren't interested in that. It was just like, let's get assets. Let's get
Only
assets.
been a couple games. They played really well
No,
against
I'm
the
not talking
Wizards.
about
They
this
beat
season.
the Pistons. Like this is the thing is that the narrative about the team gets away from like the team itself, and
But-
that's the job of the guys in the front office is to control that narrative, is to like make it so that these guys can do their work and get better.
But I'm saying they haven't done their job.
The front office.
I think the front office has done a terrible job.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It doesn't seem like they even
How
realize.
are we having a Markelle Fultz press conference?
But I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying it doesn't even seem like they've put real thought and energy into how all of these guys would play together and what positions they would be in. And like, why is JJ Redick on this team for $23 million for 1 year?
To teach them how to be NBA players. So
What
that they're
does that
not
mean?
so that they're not all a bunch of kids out on the road together who have never done this before.
Why do you have to spend $23 million on that? Why do you have to spend You've spent $34 million on two guys. One of them
it's
can't play.
money, but like it's not my money. Like if they want to do it, like what were they going to do otherwise? I think it actually it stretches the floor. It has a couple of guys around there who are like, this is how you treat your body on the road. This is when you should go to sleep. You got to do this. You got to get on the plane. Like all this stuff.
Jared Bayless can't do that? You already had him on the team. Ben Simmons has been the breakout under 21 guy, other than maybe, Tatum, Fox, and Markkanen, I think have been really good.
Right.
I think you look at those three guys and you go.
And Dennis Smith has been like, is Dennis Smith playing? I'll watch for 5 minutes. Like he's been, but it's just in case he dunks on somebody.
He's going to be a great fantasy guy and a fun guy for social media.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be the guy who's leading a conference finalist, but we'll see.
Yeah.
He's fun. To get him at the 9th pick is great. Markkanen's been the big revelation for me.
What do you think is behind all this scrutiny on the rookies this year? Why are we so like?
It's because the NBA is a 12-month-a-year sport.
And now it's 24 hours. And now it's like.
Well, the Fultz thing's really bad because they traded up for him.
Yeah.
That it's one thing like if they had the first round pick and they're like, we like this guy, let's take him. But they actually, when you make a trade like the one they made, now you're saying he's a sure thing, which is what people felt like when we were at the lottery, right? But then the Celtics didn't like something, and I still don't know what they did.
Well, this is the sort of underlying part about it is I would feel better about all of this if it had nothing to do with Danny Ainge. But like I'm not comfortable with the fact that I think this kid is going to be really good. I really do think he'll be fine, but I don't like the fact that Danny Ainge had him was taking pictures of him in the, up against posters of Bob Cousy going up on Boston social media, and 2 days later was like happy to get rid of the pick.
I still feel that I think this was really badly mismanaged from an organizational standpoint. Because when you have a young team like this, the one thing you don't want is hype, expectations, we've arrived, all that shit. Like just publicly, you have to throw water on people. I'm like, these guys are all young. They have never played together. We have no real idea if it makes sense to have Embiid and Ben Simmons and then other tall guys on the court at the same time. Like, we're going to experiment. We think Ben Simmons is a point guard.
Right.
We're not positive.
Right.
We think Fultz can play off the ball. We don't know. He's 19. They didn't manage that at all, and I think that was their mistake. And then, so Fultz shoots 3 free throws, people freak out, and then it's like the sky is falling. It's because their over-under was 41, and people thought this was a playoff team. It's absurd.
I also think that it doesn't help that his personality obviously isn't very domineering right now. And you look at De'Aaron Fox. If De'Aaron Fox was having a terrible time from the field or from the line, you'd still be like, but this kid is great. He gives great quotes. He plays his ass off. He's already like a face-up defender to go after guys. Fultz has got like a more reserved personality. I don't love doing body language doctor stuff, but it's not great. Like
I love it.
Well, you can tell he's just like, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to stand. You know what I mean? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
He's a rookie, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, there's an assertive way to be like that, and there's like a way where you can kind of like, I've played basketball before. I know how to do this. Like, I'll just do what I'll do the things I need to do. And then there is like, why am I down on the baseline? I don't know what part of the play I'm supposed to be in.
Or if you're JJ Redick, you're like, so I'm just going to stand here? Can I run off a screen? I still don't think Simmons is a point guard ultimately. I think he's somebody you run the offense through, but the thing I don't like about how they're using him, and I know his stats have been good, I just like when he's around the basket.
Yeah.
I think his hands and feet are so quick, and he just has this uncanny ability to just know where to go and what to do, and to just pull him out of the play doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I also think as you keep playing, meaning the Sixers, the smart teams are just going to play 10 feet off them.
They already are. They're sagging. That's the thing.
It's going to be beyond sagging.
But if he can use that sagging to initiate offense by getting into the lane, if he can develop like a floater, if he can become a threat at the hoop, then everything is going to start collapsing. And like if people are like, oh, we're going to play off Simmons because like he's not going to pull up from 3, then he can get into the lane and start driving and kicking, and then that will open up the whole offense.
There is it's a little bit similar to the Anthony Davis Boogie combo, where you watch them and you go, there's some way this should be working an awesome way from just a geometry spacing standpoint.
Yeah.
Like when they throw it to Boogie, Davis really doesn't know where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
You just see him. He's kind of like, shit. All right, I'm ready to run in as soon as you shoot. But they haven't. There seems to be, like Bird and McHale, they always figured out Bird would be in the top and he'd feed McHale, and they kind of just figured out the spacing. I think it's harder to do when the guy who's throwing it in can't shoot.
Yeah.
But it does seem like there's some geometry thing that they could figure out.
I'm sure that there's some way in which Simmons, Embiid, and Fultz like work together. They just have to have you just look at Brooklyn last night. It's like they have zero expectations.
Yeah.
They have the highest scoring offense in the league and the worst defense in the league.
And they're all having fun because they have zero expectations.
Yeah, and they're whipping the ball around and chucking threes, and everybody out there seems like they're 6'6". Like all the guys are either like a small forward or a power forward. A shooting guard
something to prove.
Yeah, it's like LeVert and Rondé and D'Angelo, and like there's just zero expectations, but they can go out there and just like find their way into their identity in a way that the Sixers don't have that chance right now.
Here's my fear with Fultz. And just for the record, I don't care. Like, I want Fultz to be good because I like basketball.
Yeah.
Like, that trumps the Celtics part of this. The Celtics got a great guy and a great pick. Like, it doesn't matter how Fultz does with the Celtics. Like, Tatum's good. You know, that trade, you do that trade 100 times, even if Fultz becomes a 7-time All-Star. Griffin had this quote. David Griffin, the old Cavs GM, had this quote about Anthony Bennett, where he said, the issue with Anthony, this was from The Athletic, who has the asshole CEO. The issue with Anthony, this is the quote, the issue with Anthony was, and we had no way of knowing it at the time, the kid had no desire to overcome adversity whatsoever. As soon as it was hard, he was out. His whole life, he rolled out of a bed bigger, better, and more talented than anyone else. As soon as it was hard, it was over. And I was the one on campus at UNLV. I'm the one who got sold the bill of goods, and I bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. You fuck up sometimes. But I feel bad Chris Grant took it for that because Chris was the one guy who wasn't sure. So there's a lot to unpack with that. But basically he's saying as soon as it got hard for Anthony Bennett, he folded. And that's the fear with Fultz right now. Is like it's hard for him for the first time.
I'm not worried about that.
I'm 10%
That quote
worried.
is also very like that.
No,
quote,
it's incredibly self-serving.
It's like he came to Valhalla, the Cleveland Cavaliers at that time. I don't remember the Cavs that fondly at that time, and he's like Anthony Bennett just dropped the ball there. It's like, come on, yeah, maybe.
Well, but I do think we've
But
seen.
didn't he
this
also
with-
have like undiagnosed sleep apnea? I mean,
we've seen it with NBA players where they hit adversity and they might not handle it great, and that's this is an incredible amount of tension for a rookie. As you said earlier, I don't remember rookies being dissected
I don't
like
remember
this.
even watching
Lonzo
rookies.
Lonzo has had 3 different story arcs already. He's played 3 games.
Yeah.
First game, he's a disaster. Second game, Lonzo, and then third game,
But it's almost like because, and it's not even him, it's his dad, and it's everything around him, is almost like turning into the spin where they're like, it's a circus. Like yeah, Lonzo, no way Lonzo loses twice in 1 week. Okay, John Wall's coming in to destroy him tonight. You know, like that is now making it almost like strangely like a circus about every night he plays, and it almost suits his game. It's strangely he seems unperturbed by the fact that like every night a point guard might come after him, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like with Fultz and this whole situation, it seems like they're not prepared for the scrutiny.
and their medical staff wasn't prepared for whatever the fuck is going on.
I have
there.
no idea what's happening with this. I don't understand it. I don't understand the misdiagnosis is the lack of diagnosis is the lack of a treatment plan. You just never, for so many other basketball teams, it's like, guy hurt his wrist, he's out 2-3 weeks. Nobody blinks twice. Nobody blinks twice. Nobody says like, oh, is it really his wrist? Does he need fluid drained from it or put back into it? Is it a fracture or is it a strain?
But that's why what the agent did, it was just so reckless.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? You've just created a news story where there was no news story. People didn't know what was wrong with Fultz.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, obviously something was wrong.
I mean, I
because-
guess like I could sort of see. I don't look if it started out the season, it was like Fultz has a bad shoulder, he can't start the season. I don't think Sixers fans would have been psyched, but it's not like we're not used to it. We didn't see Embiid for 2 years. We didn't see Simmons for a full year. Like we're used to having to wait.
Yeah.
So the weird thing about this is this like play through it stuff.
I think Simmons is the only unequivocal sure thing out of those 3 guys.
Yeah.
Simmons is like, you watch him for 2 games, like, wow, that guy's 15 years. It's something I don't remember Masai's about to, we taped it yesterday, but he's about to come on the pod. I don't remember if he said this on the podcast or when we were talking after, but he was talking about in college, you don't have the same amount of space that you have in the pros. And when people get to the pros, sometimes they get that space and they just love it.
Like, do you mean off court, like the space to be like alone, or like literally on the court?
On the court, because in college it's just like it's 40 minutes. Everybody's going full speed.
The
all
coach
the
is
time.
calling a timeout every 90 seconds. Yeah,
and all this shit. And in the NBA, it just calms down, and people know where to go and what to do. And he was saying, some guys just they just love it, and I think Simmons is one of those guys.
Yeah,
and you could see it I was a big fan of his at LSU. Then he came into the Sixers last year and he was so much bigger.
He also had a year to adjust to like not being at LSU. Now he's like in the pros. I mean, even like the other night, Tatum was talking about how like they got back from some game at 2 a.m. and then they were like, yeah, we're like, there's another game tomorrow. And he was like, what are you talking about? Because he had misread the schedule. And he's like, I just can't believe how much we're playing.
Yeah.
And like that stuff, like you take it for granted. But, and yeah, you could just look at the schedule. But these kids are like overwhelmed by that. They're playing more than twice as many games in a season than they've ever played before.
And they're kids.
Yeah.
But I think, the LSU, I watched a lot of him that year. I had a lot of personally at stake because my son and him have the same name.
Sure.
Wanted to make sure he's not going to be like the greatest player of all time. That would have been weird. But that LSU team, it was so poorly run. His teammates, he just had a weird team. And I do think he checked out, which I think was a real concern. And I was really worried about his competitiveness because I didn't like how he checked out at LSU. And it just seemed like he just wanted to get to the NBA. Then you watch him in these NBA games. It's like, all right, that's fine. Cross that concern off. I still don't. It's going to be hard to imagine him having a 25-foot shot. But after watching Aaron Gordon drain threes last night,
5 threes,
I think anything's possible.
Yeah.
It's the old KG thing. Aaron Gordon's stroke now is nice.
The Kissimmee freak now. He's just going to be like, if he gets that, that's a wrap, man. He's really, really good.
Simmons is like a top 10 first, second team All NBA potential guy. I think Embiid has the talent. I'm not convinced he can play 60 games. Just show me. Let's see it once.
Yeah.
Simmons is fine. He probably could have played last year, right?
The word is that he could have played towards the end of the season. Yeah.
And then Fultz, even though it's been really strange, like there are some things he's shown already that are the highest possible level NBA stuff. Like that spin move he has is freaking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, even just in like a few minutes of watching him in summer league before he hurt his ankle and before the shoulder was really bothering him, you could just see he was a guy who was able to just pull up right off of like the little bit of daylight, which is something that we really need.
But it was a 20-footer. And the question is, can he stretch that at 24?
Well, this is at summer league. This is like,
I know.
Yeah.
But like Bradley Beal, you watch Bradley Beal and it's just like, he's like a robot, It's just effortless, 25-footers.
But Bradley Beal,
I thought Fultz was going to be like
this. Is a great example, though. It's like Bradley Beal. We thought was like Bruce Willis from we thought
he was unbreakable.
Yeah, and it's like is this kid ever going to be able to play a full season, much less 60 games? And now, what is he, like a top 5 shooting guard in the NBA?
No, I brought up Bradley Beal just because that's kind of what I thought Fultz was going to be as a
but he's
shooter.
Still good, is what I'm saying. Is like it was like just because he has a shoulder.
Well, it seemed like he was like almost pushing from the right side of his body, which makes me think maybe he really is hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Part of it might be mental too. The Bennett thing worries me though, because we've just seen guys over the years who have these crazy expectations, and once it gets in their head,
class?
Which one?
Who else was in the Bennett class? The draft
that was
class.
a weird draft.
Yeah.
That was like that.
I mean,
I
just don't understand how so many people could be so wrong about one guy. Like,
well, the Bennett thing was when they took him, it was crazy.
Oh,
they thought he was going to go
but that was not what Fultz was. Fultz was like a presumptive, like the consensus number one.
I think the only thing,
some like, should it be Lonzo, and some like, whoa, Josh Jackson. I'm pretty glad we don't have Josh Jackson. You know what I mean? Like there was like Josh Jackson talk.
If you had stayed at 3 and taken Fox, I think you'd have been fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't ask me. I wanted Monk.
Yeah, he's been terrible.
Yeah, I was just like, I saw Malik Monk score 43
By the
points.
way, I'm buying everyone's Monk stock. Whoever's selling Monk.
I'm not selling.
It's an incredible draft, though.
I'm a founding member of the corporation. I can't.
Oh, that's right. You don't have any left. No, it's been an awesome draft. I think we're going to look at this draft and it's going to be.
It's
one
also
of the
great.
all-timers.
It's great for watching League Pass because every game has somebody you're in it where you're like, I gotta watch Markkinen for a few minutes. You know, like
Where does Sarge fit into all this?
Well, Sarge is tough because he's my favorite Sixer. He also
Doesn't
needs
seem
the
to fit
ball
into this, yeah.
and plays like it's 1987. Like he's
Yeah.
so like it's just this beautiful, slow, kind of almost like an antelope with rubber bands tied around its legs. Like you can like, is he gonna make it like to the basket? And then it's like, oh, he did like a reverse layup. How did that happen? Or he threw like a behind the back no look pass. I just don't know. It'll be really interesting with a lot of these teams, like how they start staggering minutes and taking a really good player and putting them up against backups. I mean, you saw Oklahoma do that with against the Wolves to get back in the game. They basically had Melo out there with like Felton and Abrinas against a terrible Wolves bench, and they made up a huge a huge deficit. Sarge could be the best player on their second unit. Sarge Fultz second unit should be good.
He's kind of overqualified to be that.
Sure, but I think that right now it's like you can't have another guy who's big and needs the ball out on the court at the same time with Simmons and Embiid.
Covington looks good too.
Rocco looks great. He looks awesome.
The funny thing about the Sixers is I don't think they have any chance to make the playoffs, and yet they have 8 players I really like.
Yeah, they're deep now. It's crazy.
It's a really likable roster. I'm not sure where Redick fits in on it. Redick just might be somebody who should just be on veteran teams. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like where, if anything, the Clippers tried to get him too involved last year, but there's some sort of middle ground.
Do you think that there could be like a Redick? Can Redick get traded at the deadline?
In December. That's the thing. You guys have. That was, I think, the reason they did the Amir, because now you have $34 million of contracts you can flip. But I mean, they have to figure out the Fultz thing, and they cannot put him in a position to fail like that. If he's hurt, don't play him.
Yeah,
that's it.
LeBron just said that this morning. Like, if he's hurt, I don't understand why he's playing.
This goes back to the organizational thing we were talking about at the beginning, which I think the organization's the real villain here. With if the guy's hurt, don't play him. There's too much. That first game against Washington, that was like an event.
That's the thing, is that it's not like we're being run by Tom Thibodeau. I don't know where this came from, where it's like gut it out. It's like gut it out. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like gut it out. We haven't gutted it out in 4 years. These guys have all been in bubble wrap for 4 years. Like let him like get his shoulder fixed.
It was almost like they were more worried it was going to be a story if he sat out a couple games to start the year than if he played games and looked
I think
hurt.
that there's a disconnect between what Fultz thinks is wrong with him, what the Sixers think is wrong with him, and that's the problem. That seems to be the problem.
We're sure this isn't mental.
I don't. I wouldn't have any reason to say that. I don't know. And like, there's nothing about him where I'm like, this kid is faking a shoulder injury and like reconstructing his shot.
Oh,
for
I don't
no
think
reason.
he's faking it. I just think maybe he's hurt and maybe he's. I don't know. It's like we've seen this happen in golf and in baseball where somebody can get a mental hiccup on something and it gets in their head and then they. I don't know. We got to fix this though because we need Fultz. When you watch this Simmons and Embiid combo now, what I thought Fultz was going to be in my head, it actually makes perfect sense. If this is like the guy with 25-foot range who can also slash and kick and spin move and hit somebody for a dunk, that is the perfect third guy for this.
Yeah,
and would have been worth the trade up. I still think that has a chance to be one of the great trades ever.
We need more from TJ McConnell now more than ever.
TJ looks good.
Yeah.
I like TJ. This still has a chance to be one of the great trades because Tatum's a beast. Like that, the Tatum-Jalen combo.
Wait,
even though,
are you saying to me that this has a chance to be one of the best trades, like great trades for you guys?
No, for both sides.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about like,
I still wouldn't.
If Fultz is what we think he should be, it's a great trade.
We were talking about this last night. Like, if you could go back in time, would you just keep the 3 and take Tatum? And I wouldn't. I just think you go
not
for
with
it.
the team you have.
No, and I also just don't. I would never. I wanted Fultz.
Lonzo's the one that Lonzo would have fit in pretty nice.
Yeah, he
would have been pretty good.
He's fine.
Lonzo would have been really fun.
then we'd have like too many guys who don't shoot.
At gunpoint, you'd take Lonzo. Come on.
I'd still take Monk.
Lonzo would be fun. Lonzo with Simmons, with the way they use Simmons, and the fact that when you watch Lonzo, he never has the ball for more than like a second.
Having like Rubio and Merritt, like it would just be like and White Jason Williams
Simmons
passing.
Needs the ball. Lonzo doesn't really ever want to have the ball because if you stand next to him, he gets rid of it.
I know he
fast
just does
possible.
a touch pass like every time you.
I'm not positive Lonzo can dribble.
I don't know. It's
Can
when
Lonzo
you watch
does Lonzo
Lonzo
have a
play.
handle?
It's okay. I think Patrick Beverley would point out some flaws with his handle.
My biggest fear with Lonzo is we saw it twice with Fox in the NCAA, And then he's on that Beverly thing too. And even just when you're watching very carefully, it just doesn't seem like he wants to be pressured ever.
Well, he will find out about that tonight against the Wizards. I feel like John Wall is going to follow him around for a while.
You know what the Lakers fans you can't bring up to them is the Russell trade. That's a bad trade.
He looks really good.
Whoa,
Not only does he look
we got
good,
Kuzma. Well, congratulations. I'm pretty sure you could have gotten the 27th pick from someone else.
He had a little bit of a classic Kyrie game. It was like 25 and 1 assist last night.
Yeah.
But his like just demeanor on the court is totally different.
And his body looks different.
He looks so he's like taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
He understands that like he is definitely the best scorer on that team, but like those guys are not like he's gunning.
Don't you feel like he's filled out? To me, he looks like a James Harden type of body now.
Yeah.
He just feels like
and he does the same thing where he'll get into the lane, throw the brakes on, guys go on his back, he gets a foul, shoots a 5-footer. Like he's for real. If he can figure out his three, like he was clanging him at the end of the night. I think he was tired last night against the Magic. That was like
he missed the game winner.
How about the NBA?
Yeah, I know.
Magic
Aaron
Nets
Gordon
is just like a blast.
I was watching Nets Hawks during football on Sunday, which is a terrible game between two teams that won't make the playoffs. I was riveted.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, look at the Nets. Look at DeMarre Carroll. That was a big fuck up. How about this? Don't give up on guys who are not 22 yet.
Yeah.
Who are high lottery picks. Like they better get LeBron. Is if you're going to do that trade, you better 100% know LeBron is coming in a year. All right, Chris Ryan. That wasn't that bad, right?
No, I feel okay. It's nice to come in and share.
Okay. I'm glad I was here for you. Let's take a break, talk about MeUndies. They make feel-good undies your butt will be proud to wear. Do you wear MeUndies, Chris?
I do wear MeUndies, yeah.
Most comfortable pair of underwear I've ever owned. Tons of styles and patterns to choose from for both men and ladies. MeUndies will have the perfect fit for any personality. The MeUndies feeling is unmatched. I think that's a good verb for this, because they use a naturally soft fabric that is 3 times softer than cotton. For a limited time only, check out MeUndies' first ever glow-in-the-dark print. Lights out! Why not update your underwear, draw on glow at the same time? And if underwear isn't your thing, MeUndies also makes the softest socks in the world. Right now, you'll save 20% off your first pair and receive free shipping only at MeUndies.com/BS. And if you don't love the first pair of MeUndies, they're free. 100% satisfaction. Guaranteed. Go to MeUndies.com/BS to get 20% off, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee on the best, softest underwear you'll ever own. Before I get to Masai, we did the Rewatchables live. That podcast is going up this week. Face Off. We did in front of like 250 people at Largo.
Yeah,
200?
about 150 of which saw Face Off before, but everybody seemed to enjoy it.
Did a Q&A after, which you'll hear if you listen to the Rewatchables, and we thought it was going to be Q&A about basketball on the website.
Yeah.
They were all these thought-out face-off questions that we hadn't considered yet. Yeah. That was super fun, though. Thanks to everybody who came out.
And then the next one after that, I think, is The Fugitive, right?
Yeah, that's next week.
So if you guys are looking to try and watch the movies before the pod, it goes Face Off, then The Fugitive.
Ringer NBA show. Mm-hmm. You're on there Thursdays?
Well, we're doing Sources Say Today, and then Thursdays we do group chat with me and Justin and Haley.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the watch as well.
Monday and Thursdays.
You're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Chris Ryan, thank you. Let's quickly talk about Sonos. Want to experience TV, movies, and music with sound you can feel from a speaker you'll hardly notice? Playbase from Sonos gives you just that. Look, I can't remember how many terrible home audio systems I've had over the years. Playbase's low-profile design practically disappears beneath your TV, only it fills your entire viewing room with epic home theater audio from movies and sports to TVs and shows and gaming. The slim, low-profile Playbase adds dynamic pulse-sounding sound to whatever is playing on your TV. It can work with almost all TV cable box universal remotes. Everything sounds better on Playbase. So easy. Sonos app guides you through every step of the setup. Right now, for the first time ever, Sonos is offering listeners of this podcast 10% off one order of $2,500 or less for any product on Sonos.com, including Playbase. This offer is available for a limited time only, cannot be combined with other discounts or promotions. Use promo code Simmons10, Simmons10, at Sonos.com to receive this exclusive offer. See for yourself. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. That is Sonos.com, Simmons10. Okay, here it is. Masai Ujiri, fascinating guy, GM of the Raptors, and had a crazy kind of path to get where he is. And we talked about that. We talked about the NBA, where stuff's going, a whole bunch of stuff. It's awesome. Here we go. Masai Ujiri in my office. Give me all the ways people have mispronounced your name.
Too crazy. You got it. You got it right. You got it. You're very, very close. But I've seen.
I was close. I wasn't right. What is the exact pronunciation?
Ujiri.
Ujiri.
Yes, you got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people go Uhari.
Yeah, Uhari. I hear all kinds of stuff with my name, but I guess it's a tough name.
Now you've had some success. I think people are starting to nail it. You've been in basketball in the NBA. I did some research for this one. 2002, you're an unpaid assistant for the Orlando Magic. You were unpaid.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through that one. How are you eating every day? Where are you getting money?
So I think I saved up a little bit playing professionally in Europe, and that wasn't even a lot of money. But I was living with one of my friends in Washington D.C. who was staying in a little studio apartment, so that helped. It was cheap.
Fruit Loops every day?
Yeah, Fruit Loops every day, and those meals you cook that last like for 4 days.
Yeah, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese, and we ate a lot of African food.
Were you playing hoops still, or you just
No,
packed it in?
I stopped playing in Europe, and I came back, and my goal was to get into college coaching, if I could. And
coaching?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to. I really wanted to do that, and had a great friend in David Thorpe.
Oh yeah, my old ESPN teammate.
Yeah, and introduced me to all the coaches basically, and I began to kind of know them, work camps, Leonard Hamilton, Billy Donovan, all the camps, and still I was helping a lot of kids from Africa come to college, so it was a little bit popular with the college coaches, which helped me a lot. But at this time, Coach Thorpe introducing me to all these coaches. He was working out prospects to be going into the NBA, and I would go and help him out in Tampa. And a prospect, Uche Osonu, who played in Wisconsin, came to work out.
Yeah.
And was going to work out with the Orlando Magic. And so I drove him to the workout. He had put his name in the draft. And the Orlando Magic, he went into the workout and they didn't let me in. So I just drove him. And after the workout, he came out and I went to lunch with him and the 5 prospects he was working out with Gary Brokaw, who was the director of player personnel at the time. And John Gabriel was the
Orlando GM.
Yes, the Orlando GM, and Doc Rivers was coach.
Yeah.
So right when we were at lunch, Brokaw gets a phone call, and one of a prospect canceled, and he asked me if I would bring Uche back to replace that prospect in a couple of days, and he would allow me into the workout. And so while we were at lunch, we started talking, and I started telling him about all the prospects I knew in Europe and college and blah, 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 basically running my mouth. And he found it pretty interesting. And
so that one prospect canceling and you get a break.
I got a break. That's how I'm here today. It's unbelievable. I got into the practice. John Gabriel came to me and sat with me for a little bit. He was really nice. Doc Rivers came over, sat with me. They were very nice. And John Gabriel said, Gary Brokaw told me you know a lot about European basketball. Our European scout has a little issue right now. And if you want to work with me or work with us, give me a call. Wrote his number on a piece of paper. I tell you, Bill, I called every day for like 6 months. Every day I called John. Finally, they told me to come to Orlando, and they were like, Masai's on the phone again. What should I tell him? I know. I'm not here. It's one of those that I don't know like what they even say. You know, like bugging. And finally they get me to Orlando, and they get me to evaluate an NBA game.
Yeah.
And they're playing the Clippers, and I evaluated like 3 guys, and they decided to let me work for them, like just almost like a volunteer.
Yeah.
And
But that's, I mean, a lot of guys have gotten in the NBA being like, oh, you're going to open the door for me 1 inch?
you just
I'm in.
take it.
I'll do whatever.
Take it. That is what I advise people, like bust your butt and do it. And just traveling around, the next year I got offered a couple full-time jobs from the one I took was with Denver.
Yeah.
With Kiki Vandeweghe and Jeff Weltman, and my first full-time job.
Are you to blame for the Tishkavili pick or no?
I tell Jeff I was the year after the
year after. Okay. Whose game did you have when you were a player? What were you? Were you like a?
I was one of those. I was the ones that I was one of the guys that you say like that can't shoot, and I learned to shoot
You
in
were like
Europe.
a 3-and-D guy who couldn't shoot threes?
Yeah, I couldn't shoot, and then I learned to shoot in Europe. So athletic, could jump, but couldn't shoot.
And you grew up in Nigeria.
I grew up in Nigeria. I was born in England, but I only lived there for 9 months, and my parents moved back to Nigeria.
So you're in like elementary school, high school when Hakeem is the best player in the world because Michael Jordan retired briefly.
Yes.
And Hakeem was the man.
Hakeem was unbelievable.
I wrote about Hakeem in my book. I think it's a 1 in a billion chance you could ever replicate his career, and I just don't think we'll ever see a basketball player like that again because it's such a fluke. You have this guy who is one of the best athletes we've ever had in basketball, but he played soccer until he was 15 and learned this whole different footwork balance thing, and then all of a sudden somebody just threw him a basketball. He's like, oh, all right, I'll try this, and just came at it from this way. I don't think it ever gets replicated.
You should watch him teach. It's unbelievable. I've seen how many guys there,
Yeah.
like thinking that, like, hey, you could get something from this footwork, but great friend, great person, unbelievable person. Has this gym in Houston. I don't know if you know,
Well,
like
it's like the famous, you send somebody there to learn post moves.
middle of nowhere, basically. Owns so much land in Houston, in the middle of nowhere. Like he has this gym.
Yeah.
And you go in, and it's so absurd. Like it's on a ranch or something, and you drive how long to get there, and the gym is just sitting there, and inside it's just the echoes of a ball. And there's this big picture of his jersey or something, and a couple of his shoes there. And it's a nice NBA gym. I mean, practice floor and gym. And he just teaches. And it's incredible how he teaches. I took JaVale McGee, Jonas Valanciunas, even DeMar went quite a few.
DeMar is like a big footwork student.
Yeah. He's become one of the better footwork guys in the
KD. I did a KD pod this summer, and he said he admired DeRozan's footwork the most out of anybody.
Yeah. When I think of footwork, I think of Hakeem. I think of obviously Jordan, but Kobe became so good with footwork.
Kevin McHale.
Kevin McHale is another one.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Yeah, I think in this era now, like DeMar has kind of mastered it in some kind of way that, like is unique a little bit. People pay attention to it. So
I know it's tough for you to talk about other teams' players, but I was excited. Porzingis, I noticed he had a couple of footwork additions to his game this year that I think, there was a little like touch of McHale, like a little drop step thing. And I was wondering, like, with the way basketball's going, I mean, you're part of the crusade of ruining basketball, which is shooting threes. Your team, all they do is shoot threes and layups now. But I worry about the big guys. If you're 15, why would you even work on your footwork?
I think he'll
Should
come
you drift
back
25 feet away and just shoot threes every day for your entire life?
I think he'll come back. I think maybe if the Hakeems and those guys, come about again, there's no way you can, but when do they come about? Those are generational players, right? But
all right, so 15-year-old Hakeem, he comes into America.
Mm-hmm.
Is he shooting threes? Is 2017, 15, 17-year-old Hakeem, Is he even thinking about low post stuff?
He's not, but he's running. I think he's running, which I think he's jumping, he's catching lobs, and I think he figures out a way, like to play to play in one-on-one situations, which I think if a lot of the big guys now, like if they can play in one-on-one situations, they all play in the dunker now with the system, but I think guys like that will figure a way. It's the heavy-footed ones, like I don't know how that would work now, but the athletic ones I think would figure it out.
I mean, basketball just in the last 4 years. You think there was this whole Roy Hibbert conversation in 2012, 2013. This is the future of basketball, rim protect, horizontal, stick your arms up, and then in 2 years, people figure out how to play those guys off the court. You've had to deal with some of that with Jonas, who kills my favorite team, the Celtics. He's always just destroyed us. But a lot of teams have figured out a way to just basically put him in space and make it so that Toronto has to make a choice. Do we give up a little on this end and pound on the other end? And it's like become this seesaw. I'm sure you guys must talk about constantly. Well,
he's now. I think he's figured it out now, where he's playing in the dunker and posting up less. So doing a lot of handling the ball instead of waiting to be thrown the ball in the post. Which is, I think, became easier to defend in this day and age. And so now he's leaner. He runs better. And you have to adjust, but. I think it'll change again, though, Bill.
Yeah.
I really think the style of play, we say it, like before it was the vertical, like just a couple years ago. And but somebody will invent something. Somebody will come up with something. Whatever you come up with, you have to win. Where if you win, people will copy. While copycat lead.
True.
Yeah, I think people tried. This system, George Karl did it, I used to be like, okay, why are we, playing we have two really good big guys, and why are we playing a shooting four, so I'm playing smaller.
Yeah.
When you're playing against Bynum and Gasol, and then George would play Al Harrington, for instance, at the four and stretching the floor and trying those things, but we never won big or a championship, I think Phoenix played that way, years ago, and
came close,
I mean,
the 2008 Celtics, their best lineup was the lineup that had KG at the 5 and shooters all around basically, and Pierce playing up.
Yep.
And we never. It's funny. I was watching Game 4 in 2008, the finals against the Lakers, when the Celtics made the big comeback, and Van Gundy's talking about the lineup. It's like, wow, this is what happens here is Eddie House spreads the floor and it allows them to do this, and this. And he's basically spelling out what's about to happen in basketball, but nobody realized it. They think it's just this gimmick lineup the Celtics had. They were still playing Big Baby and KG together, Leon Poe and KG, Perkins and KG. And now it's shifted back. But I agree with you. The history of basketball says these little trends last about 4 or 5 years and they flip. Remember the mid-'80s with it was Samson Olajuwon, and it was Parrish, McHale, Walton.
Yep.
And then with the Lakers tried to get big to match everybody that 1 year. It didn't work. Then they went the other way. They played Worthy at the power forward, played AC Green. All of a sudden, then people are starting to emulate them.
No question.
So I think you might be right. The one thing I worry about is, and I'm sure you see it with all these kids you're getting involved with, is just the 15-year-olds where they just are like, how do I get in the NBA? I have to shoot threes instead of playing basketball.
I think for me, the talent is the first thing, and I think the way the game is played now, the basic fundamentals are so vital to these kids. So it's not. We're not looking at the running and jumping as much as, shooting and footwork and all those things, that make players now produce in certain ways. But honestly, I think it will change again, it's just a matter of time, we're a trendy league, and we, we're copycat, you know, like we just go with the waves, you know, like, and whatever is going, hey, you know, like everybody tries to go as long as somebody won, you know, like doing it, you know. So
well, so like take Bruno. I did that draft.
yeah.
You took him, and Fran Fraschilla said he's 2 years away from being 2 years away, or whatever his quote was, which was hilarious. And now
5 years away from being.
So what'd you see in somebody like him? Because he was so raw at that point.
Yes,
but you saw something.
Well, we saw the shooting ability. And then you see the length, 7'7" wingspan. You see a young kid that's passionate about the game, and sometimes I wonder if I should have left him longer, you know, like over there to develop a little bit more. Yeah. But I also wanted to see, you know, like, because sometimes they don't concentrate on weights. They don't concentrate on him getting stronger. And we've concentrated on that, and it's still been a long process. And then we didn't have the D-League team for a couple years. So when you're buried, you know, like before we purchased the D-League team, it was difficult for him to play anywhere, you know, and you can shoot all you want and develop all you want if you're not playing games.
Right, you need to be out there.
It leaves you out there. So, but it's a work in progress. It's young kids in the league, and at some point, it has to get to a point where you say, you know what, are you doing this or are you not? Do you have to move on from it? And he's close, you know. We think he's close, but it's still a process. He's gained the he's mastering a couple things. Sometimes off the court too, bringing kids from other parts of the world, you know, like there's so much adjustment here that you don't know. Yeah, language, culture, all those things, you know.
Having money.
No?
Having money, having girls in the hotel lobby, all that stuff.
I'm sure.
Somebody Instagramming you and you're not looking.
Yeah,
There's gonna be a million things.
this.
That's why I'm so amazed by Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did that draft, and it was almost like he was like this mythological draft pick. We were watching the videos. We don't know if the rims are 10 feet, and you know his background. It's like, wow, this is a real roll of the dice. But he's got these long hands.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of talk about how long he has long hands.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see what he's become over the last 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's like I feel like he's going to throw the draft totally out of whack because the needle in the haystack pick where you end up with that. Now it's going to incentivize everybody to look for that next version of that, you know. And I don't know if we see that again. I think Giannis literally he's the freak. I don't know if that ever happens again.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how much the world knows about the NBA. You know, like you'll be amazed. You know, like how much just traveling in Africa, even in the summer, and I sometimes wish there was more facilities over there, you know, like because you see all these freaks, you see all these, you know, like long guys, tall guys, you know, like athletic looking, you know, like, but there's nowhere to play, you know, like, and they
don't have the sneakers.
Yeah,
either.
they don't have the shoes, and that's why they're so great at soccer, because you don't need any of those, you know, like it's like how we started playing ball. We just go play, you know, like they are playing ball here. And they just go play soccer without shoes. I did it, you know, like, and we right out of your mom's stomach, you know, like you're ready to play outside here, right outside your office. Young kids would be playing soccer because there's space. With basketball, you need a rim, you need pavement, you need all that stuff, you know, like, and that's hard. So I think with social media, you know, like the NBA being everywhere, and they've done an unbelievable job with it, you know, there'll be a few here and there, but there's always going to be a couple like that here or there sneaking, you know, like here or there. It's incredible, you know, like talent like that.
We did the movie with Ibaka when I was at Grantland.
Yes.
And we did a podcast too, and just that guy could have not been discovered in so many different ways. You know, it was almost like a fluke that he was discovered. It's just right person sees you at the right time of your life, and then all of a sudden your life's moving in a certain direction. but that easily could have not happened to him.
Well,
you know?
I was coaching the Nigerian under 18 team, and we play in a championship, and we play against Ibaka's team in South Africa. I think 2000 and can't remember, it's 2004, 2005 maybe, and Ibaka had 18 points and 20 rebounds in the semifinal game. And then I go to Nigeria few months later. I go to Nigeria to do my. I'm scouting for the Nuggets at the time. I go to Nigeria to do my camps, and Ibaka is playing in like one of the African championships, club championships. Still, I did not register that, like this guy is like an NBA player type thing. You know what I mean? Like, until he gets the opportunity to go to Spain. And he go plays, and then all of a sudden, we're hearing about him a little bit more, and then I take Brian Colangelo and we go watch him, but it's one of those things, that I tell people, trust me, if I knew like a lot of all these African players we had, whether it's the Embiids or the Pascal, all these guys were in Basketball Without Borders, but at that time, they're still raw. They haven't gone through like maybe the college or European experience. Are they good enough? Can they do it? And that's the tough thing when there's a lack of facilities over there.
So explain Basketball Without Borders in 20 seconds.
Well, the NBA does a remarkable job of bring every year host this camp in South Africa where they bring NBA coaches, NBA players, and they select kids from all over Africa. Top kids, and bring them to South Africa and coach.
This has been like the last 10 years.
It started in 2003.
Oh, so the last 14.
Yes, about 15 years now. We're going into 15th year, and it's an incredible program I think the NBA has built, and now they've introduced the NBA game, where they've played a couple games. It's been remarkable where they play the African players against global. It's almost like a mini All-Star weekend in Africa, and
seriously.
It turns out plenty community events and community work that the NBA is doing all over the continent. And a guy called Amadou Fall, who was a scout with the Dallas Mavericks, now heads the NBA office in Africa, and they're doing it's really growing. I'm curious to see. Now we've seen the last 10 years. I'm curious to see what the next 10 years is going to be.
Yeah, is there potentially a Westbrook that comes out of this, or some sort of person who becomes the face of, he came out of that program, and then that pushes it another level, right?
Well, there are quite a few now, Embiid was part of Basketball Without Borders.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so
let's keep Embiid on the court, though.
Yeah, so he's a big one, Gogi Dang. There's been quite a few, but you're right. Is that big one,
Embiid could be it if he's healthy.
Yep.
Which, unfortunately, Embiid, if he's healthy, has become, that's what you have to say. He's played 35 games, but God, he's talented. I saw him work out before the draft.
You did?
I got invited to a workout before he got hurt. And
where, in LA here?
In LA, in Santa Monica. I wrote about it at the time because I was like, this guy has to be the number one pick. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a huge workout guy, but he was 7'3", and the way he moved, and it was like, oh my God, like there's no way he's not the number one pick. And then he got hurt. But I would like to see that team, him and Simmons and all those guys, stay healthy for a year, just because, we need good basketball players.
They're a good team.
The league is as talented as it's been, I think, since it's probably been 25 years.
The league is in
93. I think 93 range was the last time we've had this much talent in the league at the same time. It's crazy.
I think it's in a great place. Yeah, I think the league is in a really good place.
Simmons comes in Philly. He's averaging a triple-double for the first 4 games, basically. It's just, these are nuts. These kids are like 19 and 20.
Yeah, lots of good young kids in the league coming up, and the stars are living up to it.
Did you ever? You haven't really lived a world yet where I've talked to Daryl Morey about this too. Your teams have always been competitive, you haven't lived a world where you're like, all right, we're throwing away a couple seasons and rebuilding and going through the lottery. Would that be fun for you, or are you like competing too much?
It's a tough question because I live in the world now where you're trying to win and you're trying to develop young players as well.
Right.
Yeah, and it's tough. But rebuilding, I think every organization is gonna go through it at some point. I don't know when that point will come.
Daryl's like, I've never had to rebuild. We've never had a high lottery pick. He loves, but it's true. Well, he had made the Harden trade, which I think helped it. But yeah, it's tough to stay relevant and good for a long period of time.
Yes,
with this cap.
Yeah, it's tough to maneuver, and I as I said, I think at some point every team will go through that phase of.
You kind of went through it last summer, didn't you? You had basically two paths.
Yes.
You could have doubled down on the team you had, or you could have completely blown it up.
And we chose to kind of give our young guys a chance to be like our second unit and third unit.
Right.
And then going with our two all-stars and Serge Ibaka and Jonas, basically. So we felt like we had one of the strongest benches in the NBA, obviously with Corey and Damari and Patrick Patterson, PJ Tucker, those guys, but with the cap now, you have to, when you pay a couple guys, you have to figure it out,
Right. 99.5 million, or what is it?
Yeah.
Something like that. It's not even 100 million.
Yep.
And you're paying two huge big ticket dudes. It's funny, like I was looking this week because Eric Bledsoe wanted to be traded, and I immediately went on the trade machine for 3 hours trying to figure out the perfect Eric Bledsoe trade.
Did you get it done?
No.
No?
I did not. We're taping this on a Tuesday afternoon. I ended up, I had like a Bucks, Bulls, Suns 3-way trying to figure out, could the Bulls get Jabari Parker? And it's just tough because, and part of the reasons it's tough is people are either making a lot of money or not a lot of money. It's turned into these guys in this price range of 14 to 25 million or like 4 million and under. And the middle class that used to be in these trades, there's not a lot of salary guys like that, and there's not a lot of expiring contracts either. I don't know what the reason for that is. I cannot find a partner for them. Who knows? I think it's much harder to make trades than it's ever been.
Yeah, it is. It is hard. Generally, it's really hard to make trades. Really, really hard. When you
God, you had the Carmelo trade. You were making it for 5 months. The Denver Knicks trade. I think it was going on forever.
It took a long time. They're hard to make. It's both teams have to agree. And
you got rich owners involved who never like losing anything.
Once it lines up, then you have to go through all the different processes of going to your ownership, going to league, going to everything. Like numbers have to work, and it's 2:52 at the, what is it, 3:00 deadline? Yes.
Yeah, it's 2:52, and you're racing, and you're trying to get and faxing stuff. And is it faxing now, or you do emails? You do emails now. You must be
emails now on calls.
What did you make? You made the Tucker and the Ibaka trades before. That wasn't deadline day, was that? I can't remember. Or it was like the week of.
Ibaka was a week before, and Tucker was 5 minutes before.
5 minutes before.
Yes.
It's like eBay. You're refreshing the thing.
Yeah, it's
so what happens? You think there's a chance we have the Tucker trade? You're waiting on them. You're waiting, and then all of a sudden there's a flurry at the end. Like I've always been fascinated by that.
Well, we always use one language: is we have 10 deals on the board. You know, like even though you might have half a deal on the board, So
how many people in the room?
In that room, I think a trade deadline, I have a small staff, so I bring in everybody I like the small staff because I want everybody to know and everybody to have input, and that way it's not going everywhere, So So all my guys were there, and we keep talking about it till you decide yes, you go with it and you make the calls. And I had Jeff Weltman at the time, and Jeff Weltman was going back and forth with Phoenix at the time.
So you tell one person, all right, you call the league and you call Woj. You just two guys are assigned, or Woj is in the room, or Woj is on Skype. Woj is on Skype.
Oh, Woj is everywhere.
Woj is just listening. He's levitating above the room in a hologram, omnipotent. Do you think that the league should change anything about the trade restrictions, limitations? Could they make it more fun for teams to improve? Is there one flaw in the system that you think they could fix?
Right now, at the top of my head, I'll say, I think with everything new that has coming, new cap, everything, the new CBA, I think it's to let it be for a couple of years and let it settle down, and
let people get used to it.
Yeah, get used to it first, and I think it'll be fine. Then you kind of see what the adjustments are, because I think it's quick now to say, we should change this or change that. But
right.
I think Adam has done a great job, I think, being open-minded with a lot of stuff. I think he's been excellent with taking people's opinions and suggestions and really looking at them. But I think for now, to let it be for now, let it settle a little bit will be I think my suggestion.
Yeah. What's the mindset of, all right, it's the trade deadline, but we're in the same conference with LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Do we even do anything? LeBron's made 7 straight finals, or last year it would have been 6 straight finals, trying to make his 7th. And you're looking at your team, and you start talking yourself into it. When you made those trades, I talked myself into it. I was like, Toronto's going to hang with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like we just always underestimate LeBron. Like, do you look back like the summer ends, like, oh man, what was I thinking? Or do you think like, oh no, this could have happened? How much soul searching goes on after that?
I don't soul search more when I go into something, I've gone into it, I don't look back at it and regret it or say, wow, man, I could have done this or done that, but when you're in sports, I don't know, you just have this attitude, honestly, Bill, is you're competitive, and your players are competitive, your coaching staff, your organization is competitive. So, he's there to be beat, I'm not, you respect the player, but our jobs as one of those teams, if not, go somewhere else, go do something else,
right.
That's how I see it. Our jobs is to beat them, our jobs is to figure out a way to beat them. So, I look at it, 7 championships, respect, I told 7 finals, I respect that, but honestly, I don't look at it you have to try and beat them, that's why we're here. If not, go do somewhere else, go play the piano or something, the
Celtics were wired like that too, because especially after they traded Rondo, it seemed like, and they had already traded Pierce and Garnett, and it was like, all right, it's rebuilding time.
Mm-hmm.
But they never really totally, they were like, if there's a trade that makes us better, we're still going to do it. And that leads to Isaiah Thomas, which opens the door for a whole bunch of things. Then all of a sudden they're contending.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think they were in the position of, even if we make this monster February trade deadline, it's still not enough to beat LeBron. You guys were closer.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the LeBron shadow, and then you have the Warriors shadow on the other side. My theory on this is, people have pretty much assumed, and now it's being written as fact, that the Warriors threw the league into flux. I've talked about this on this podcast. I actually think the shorter contracts have thrown things into flux more than anything. The fact that guys are becoming available in free agents in 3 or 4 years, or guys are doing these 1 or 2 year deals and they can keep opting out.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the fact that Durant went to Golden State 2016 and basically did a 1-and-1. versus like signing for 5 years. And if he had signed for 5 years, they wouldn't have been able to pay Curry. And it seems like the contract flexibility has thrown the league into flux more than the Warriors has. What do you think?
Well, I think we live in a world of now, right? We really do, and I agree with you in a sense, but if we're doing this podcast 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we'd be saying the same thing about the Miami Heat, right?
True.
And that they're going to be here for the next 10 years, we just live in that moment, but things do change.
So you think the Warriors are going down? That's how I interpret that. You think that they're done?
No, those guys are very much alive, and they're very
good at basketball.
They are very, very good at basketball. I just don't. These things don't last forever. That's just the nature of our league. It's going everywhere, and you never know, sometimes you need a little bit of luck, there is a little bit of, there's some luck to it,
I would say there's a lot of luck.
Yeah,
you can go through every season and 75% of the time some injury probably swung what the season was.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Last year maybe not as much. The Warriors were the best team and took care of business and all that, but for like this Hayward injury this year, my Celtics season in 5 minutes is in complete flux.
Bless his
I don't know
heart.
if they would have made the finals, but it's that has now opened the door for Cleveland to handle the regular season totally different. Unless you guys make a real run on them, or unless Milwaukee makes a real run, they might be able to say, all right, we'll play LeBron 63 games and just kind of gear toward those last 2 months. Who knows?
It's amazing, and I think the Hayward, I think they're still very good, but
I hope so.
Watching that game, that day, I can't imagine, if I felt as a Celtic rival,
Right.
if I felt the way I felt, and screaming in my house, and my wife comes down and she thought I got bad news because she was upstairs, thought I got bad news from somewhere or something, and she's like, what happened, and I said, you can't even see it, you can't watch it, and you're shaking, honestly, and it tells me a lot about the NBA too, the NBA is I don't know what other leagues are. It just doesn't seem like the NBA is one great big family, and we're we're rivals, and we we don't like each other on the court and blah blah blah. But it all comes down to players hang out, they love each other, teams love each other. Everything about the league, to me, is what I want to be associated with, just from my feeling that day, because every day I think I want to beat the hell out of the Celtics,
Yeah.
But the feeling I got that day was, it was not a good feeling, and I felt for the kid, I felt for the organization, because you build so much, it can happen to any of us. And for that kid, wow, and he'll come back stronger though. Yeah, he'll come back.
I've been watching basketball my whole life. I've never seen somebody get injured like that on that play.
I'll tell you this.
4 things had to happen for that play to happen the way it did.
I'll tell you, there's a Nigerian kid that my guys were telling me about that had the same injury in playing AAU and went on to play 4 years in University of Miami basketball.
Really?
Yes, and played 1 year football. And had that, and kind of did almost the same thing. So he'll be back, in this day and age, technology, everything, you just wish him the best and wish them the best.
Do you guys had an advantage a couple times with being ahead of the game with technology and advanced metrics? Like Zach, when we were at Grantland, wrote that piece about how you're using the dots. That whole. That was before you got to Toronto.
No.
Were you at Toronto at that point?
Well, yeah, I think that the dots was when I was there. The first piece he did on analytics in Toronto was right before I got there.
No, the dots was with you though.
Yes, the dots was with me. Yeah.
What's left? Are there new frontier? I mean, you're not going to tell me, but Are there frontiers that we haven't tapped into? It seems like psychology and health are the two places that these teams are now spending a lot of resources on. Once we pass through that, we've figured out spacing on offense. We've figured out exactly how to play defense. We've figured out where the dot should move with these crazy computer programs. Now we're figuring out health and psychology. What is there anything left? Now I guess it's like evaluating young prospects would be the great frontier.
Well, you've tried small ball. What if we try like playing like 5-7-7 guys like Yao Ming, like, and they just throw it to each other.
I guess that would work. Do we have 5 7'4" guys?
Yeah, I don't know. Find them from somewhere and they can just inbound and just throw it to each other until the last one just dunks it in. I don't know. Like what the next. First of all, if I thought I had like an idea, I wouldn't say it right
Yeah, I know
here.
you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I do. The people I've asked seem to feel like we're getting close to kind of exploring all the basic things. So now whatever's next is something that
I love that my guys are always exploring, I love that I have a team front office guys that there's always something new, like there's always the dots or whatever it is, there's we have to think that way, and we have to try it in my opinion in this league, because
would you get rid of corner threes? Would you make the 3-point line end like 3 feet before the end of the court on each side, so nobody could just stand in the corner to spread the floor?
It would be interesting to have a 4-point shot.
It's funny. I'm with you on the 4-point shot. Some people hate it. I remember when I did the Durant podcast, he was so upset that it was even an idea. He was like, that's stupid. We might as well be like rock and jock at this point. But I think we're going to hit a point where we have to think about the court size and whether the court size needs to be maybe a foot wider on each side or something. I don't know. We're not here yet, but maybe 10 years from now. If this Giannis type of athlete is going to keep these guys from like 6'8" to 7 feet that are able to do all this stuff, the court might eventually become too small for them. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can think happening. I don't think they'll ever raise the rim. That'll be stupid. I don't think they'll ever shorten the game. I think they might shorten the regular season at some point because it's the smart thing to do, and they should have done it already. But it really should be like a 70-game regular season. I think they'll add the play-in tournament with 14 guaranteed playoff spots, and then the other 2 up for grabs at the third. I think all that stuff will happen, but I can't imagine them.
What do you think that would do?
The play-in tournament? Yeah. So this is now the 10-year anniversary of when I first wrote the column about it. I think it does 2 things. It makes that April a little more interesting, just in general for basketball fans, because the reality is the playoffs, the top 4 seeds in each conference usually win. And if you look at the Final Four year after year after year, it's always a 1 seed, a 2 seed, a 3 seed. It's never like a 7 or 8 seed. I think it would add a little unpredictability in April, but I also think it would make it a lot harder to tank. Because if you're just shutting guys down for dubious reasons, like, oh yeah, he's got some plantar fasciitis, but you actually had a chance to make the playoffs, it becomes less defensible. And I also think it rewards teams that kind of come on late, like Denver and Portland did Denver did last year. There's always that one team that makes one trade, they do something, but it's kind of too late to save the season. I think that team should have a chance to at least try to get in there. Do you like it or you don't like it?
I've toyed with it. All of us, like play with all these different ideas, and some days I like it. Some days I just like the traditional, like what the league is and what it has been, and but I understand, like we have to advance in some kind of way, But
listen, single elimination games are just fun, and even if you're talking a 29-win team versus a 40-win team trying to get the 8 seed, I'm still watching it. So if you go from that prism, it probably makes more sense. What about if you're the 1 seed in each conference best of 7, round 1, you get 5 of the 7 games at home.
5 of the 7.
Yeah. You get something for being the 1 seed.
Wow. That's
You're probably winning the series anyway because
Yeah.
it's an 8 seed, but
yeah. Then the 8 seed has no chance at all.
8 seed has no chance.
No chance.
What if it was best of 5 first round,
4 games
but
at
the
home.
1 seed gets 4 of the 5 at home? The 8 seed only
Then
gets
there's
game 3.
no even that those chances are even like there's no chance that the 8 seed.
I miss the best of 5 though. I wish there was some way we could bring that back. I actually think best of 5, 1 seed, 8 seed, where the 8 seed gets 2 games at home is too much of an advantage for the 8 seed because you've narrowed the probability. You know, it's like anything, and you win one, all of a sudden you're up 2-1 and you have game 4 at home. I don't know. The playoffs have become too predictable.
You think?
Yeah, I do. I think the first 2 rounds are way less fun than they used to be. And especially now that we've seen teams stacked at the top, I do think we need something. You know, like the Celtics Wizards round 2 was really good.
Yeah. That was.
I don't really remember another round 2 series that stuck out. Your series against the Bucks was entertaining.
Yeah.
But that was round 1.
That was round 1.
But I don't know. It just feels like we could do a little more. You seem like you're on the fence.
I get what you're saying. You know, I think the more competitive we see the league, the better. You know, like I think it evens up. You know, and we operate with our mindset of now. You know, like and it'll even out a little bit. You know, it's what
You're a patient man.
I try to be.
That's why the Melo trade took 5 months. How many months did the Melo trade take?
About 5 months.
Owners were involved. That was your first big deal, right?
Yes.
So in 8 years, you go from you're an unpaid scout to you get a job. Orlando. When'd you go to Denver? What year?
So I was only in Orlando 1 year. So I went in 2003. 2002.
2003 to Denver. That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was in.
Then
I was
you're there.
there.
You kind of rise up the ladder.
Yes. I was there 4 years. Got promoted a couple times by Kiki and Jeff, and then Kiki left. And so I worked on the Mark Walker team for a couple years. And then went to work for Brian Colangelo as assistant GM in Toronto.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate, crazy.
And you get brought back.
I got brought back to Denver. And
At what point of that 8-year journey do you think you actually have a chance to be a GM?
You know, I was Brian Colangelo's assistant GM, and in the last year, this is unbelievable. In the last year, I really wanted to go to Africa to work in that at the NBA office. You know, like
Really?
Yeah,
you were ready to leave.
I'd spoken to Adam. It was one of those where I really wanted to go, and Adam called me in and said, you know, you'll be able to do that, you know, like at, you know, like a later time in your life, you know, like, and then, I mean, like, he was the deputy commissioner. We have been friends for a long time, you know, and he's been the great friend. And he said, just wait, you know, like, you have a chance in this league, you know, and I talked to a couple of people, and I decided to stay. And a month later, I get the call to come and interview for the job in Denver.
I taped a pod with Daryl this summer that we haven't even run yet. That's about basically like the history of Daryl's life and how he got to where he goes. Because there's so many people who have gotten a GM job or a high-ranking NBA job that just kind of never imagined that's where their life was going to go.
Yeah.
And we were talking about in 2006, the All-Star game was in Houston, and he was working for Danny Ainge, and I was like, "You're going to get a GM job," and he's like, "Are you crazy? There's no way." And I'm like, "It's going to happen. all the Moneyball analytics stuff is starting to come into the NBA, and one of these guys is going to look at you and say, I'm hiring an analytics guy. He's my GM.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no way. And like 2 months later, the Houston thing happened. And then all of a sudden it was like analytics. But he was always like, you were the only one who thought. And I was like, it was going to happen. It was analytics. Like you knew, especially with the owners that drifted. Now the NBA has like so many smart, forward thinking. A lot of guys made money in tech or new media or all these different weird new, whereas the NFL has like the old money, family money, oil money. And they just have it that way. The NBA is always kind of thinking, moving ahead. And the league's more competitive than it's ever been. Even the bad teams now are kind of doing the right things for the most part.
Well, yeah, you're right. I go to I'm an alternate governor, so I go to those board of governors meetings, and man, those guys they're forward thinkers. There's
a lot of egos in those room too.
I just know that they're competitive, and they're forward thinkers, it's unique to see the group because they think, they think for the league, for the most part, which is good. And it's I think it says a lot about Adam's leadership too, and where the league has come. Obviously, David brought this up, but man, it's real forward thinkers, and you hear all the ideas and what people are saying, and it's amazing to see, where they see the league and where the league, can be, 5 years from now or 10 years from now.
It's a good combination of security because they made. Anybody who's invested in an NBA team at this point either knows that they've made a ton of money on the investment already, or they're going to, or they've at least a little above even. So that's good. So you don't have to totally make decisions just for, let's grab some money. I don't feel like the NBA does that. I actually think they put thoughts into a big picture, a little more of a strategy. But then you think about how marketable all the players are, which is just the biggest advantage they have. And then you think about the streaming and the fact that all these different countries now are starting to watch NBA games, which 10 years ago was inconceivable.
Well, we can watch the NBA players. A lot of the people don't think we can watch the NBA players on a screen, and they can be this close, and we can see your face.
Nice HD TV.
Yes, you can see your face, even on your phone, you can see all these stars and all these players and all these teams, and with other sports, it's, face masks or, so it's, to me, identifying with the NBA, just traveling around the world, man, the NBA is like this. It's going somewhere, unbelievable in my opinion, and I'm biased because I'm in it, but
I'm biased.
But
it's also true.
Yeah,
I mean, you can see it happening. You can see it. You can look at whatever factor you want to look at, the ratings. You can look at the players' social media accounts.
Yes.
Or the fact that it's a 12-month-a-year sport. I mean, you don't probably have a week off now in the NBA. Every week something's happening.
No,
right?
it's every day.
Free to go away on vacation for 10 days?
Every day something is happening, and I spend the whole month of August, in Africa doing my camps with Giants of Africa, and I really... you are totally engaged all the time. Whether it's your team, whether it's your players, whether it's your organization, in many ways, you're completely engaged, and it's.
So naturally, the move is to stretch the schedule out and make it longer. So let's just get rid of the off season altogether. Although I will say, I loved having the NBA start earlier. It was always weird when it was right around Halloween and the World Series is going on and football and then basketball's thrown in. It felt much more organic this time.
I think I
liked it.
I thought so too.
Yeah,
I really liked it but shortening the preseason too, I think was very good.
Although we did see some teams that maybe weren't in the greatest shape yet, which is the one thing I've noticed. There's definitely some players who are playing themselves into it. Quick break to talk about MyBookie. From a gambling standpoint, we're going to remember the 2010s is the decade when live betting took off. Where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. Here's an idea. Go to mybookie.ag. They've been in the business for years. Their reputation rock solid. They do 100% cash bonuses, so off the bat, you're making money for doing nothing. They have the fastest payouts, just 2 business days. They have in-game live betting, the most rewarding player perks in the business, and an all-new mobile site that makes wagering on the go a breeze. In-game live betting. Lay down some cash, try to win big today. NFL's starting to make sense. Could be time. Join now. MyBookie will match your deposit with up to a 100% bonus. Wow. Visit mybookie.ag. Use the promo code Bill Simmons to activate the offer. Once again, mybookie.ag. Use promo code Bill Simmons. My name. Not a hard one to forget. To activate the offer, you play, you win, you get paid. Back to Masai, you Jerry. Toronto fans.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty tortured fan base. Maple Leafs, the Raps, Blue Jays. They won in '93.
Mm-hmm.
They have adopted the Raptors in ways that I never imagined. I always felt like it's a hockey town, but it really seems like it's a genuine basketball town. What kind of pressure do you feel? Because you guys have come close. You've had some cup of coffees. You made the Eastern Conference Finals. You weren't able to get over the hump. Are you feeling the fans? Are they starting to get a little restless? What's their attitude?
No, it's one of the things we wanted to do. You want to build, I think, your fans, not just for now, but for the future, for the program. I think that's what you want to do. And I think we, the North, did that, it's built something that stays, and whatever stage we're in, as long as you're kind of, I don't know if transparent is the word, but they know, what the plan is. Fans are fantastic.
Yeah, you've good fans.
Yeah, they're great, and but it happens for all the teams, and I think it's coming around with that city. I think the soccer team had the best record. They're almost the Golden State, of the
MLS,
of the MLS. It's incredible, and now the hockey team has a couple star players, star young players.
The lottery finally worked out for them.
Yeah. It's coming up. So, but the fans are it's crazy in that city. There's enough for all the teams, and packed, went to a soccer game the other day and it's like jam packed. The atmosphere is crazy. Our games are the same way, the hockey games, so, but it's gaining their trust, a little bit in Toronto and Canada as a whole. We have a unique opportunity, in that country to be, it's one team, one country.
Vancouver should have a team though. They really messed that up.
Yeah.
Stern admits it. I mean, I think that's like probably his biggest regret is not. I think he said that on my podcast once. Yeah, he did.
It's a great city.
It was a great city that should have had a team. Yeah. And I know, like, for people who work in the league and the announcers and even the players, like that Seattle-Vancouver part of the Pacific Northwest trip was like one of their favorite trips, which makes me think, like, if they ever went to 32 teams, which I feel like we have enough talent now that they could pull it off. I never felt that way until the last couple of years, but if they added 2 more teams, I would vote for the Pacific Northwest. Do you think they could carry a 32-team league at this point?
I don't. Is
there enough players?
It's close. Like my
definitely have almost enough superstars.
Yeah, my humble opinion is it's close. But when you look at, we go to that area, like almost every year in Vancouver, and we try to play around Canada, and it's unbelievable, the baskall fever, like around the country, but especially in that area. We feel in a preseason game, like we have fans outside, like doing what we do in Toronto, almost in Vancouver,
So you have a Canadian monopoly, basically. You don't want any more Canadian teams. You want to off Canada.
Yeah, for now, we like being Canada's team and being a global team. I think.
Does off Canada hate LeBron James because of what he's done to Toronto? Is he the least favorite basketball player in Canada?
I don't
care. Canadians are too nice.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like they just want to win. Like I don't know that they care about it that way. But it's. They're great fans, and they want to win, which is understandable.
True or false? NBA players are afraid to actually play in Canada because they don't understand the money system and different culture, all that stuff. Or do you think that's flipped a little?
Here's what I'll say. Will one day somebody's gonna figure it out. You know, like somebody's gonna figure that place out, because I think in Toronto you have a platform to face the world.
Yeah.
You can face Canada, you can face the US and the 29 teams, and you have an unbelievable global platform, you know, like that nobody else will have. There's something unique about that place. Look at Vince Carter, you know, like I think it's an example of, you know, like explosion of an athlete, you know, like that really like captivated basically the whole world from that place, you know, like you go all over the world, a player like that is known. But
this is a good infomercial to sign with the Raptors down the road. I think you're doing a good job here.
I'm trying. No, but I think there's something that hasn't been. I don't know if I'll be the one to figure, you know, like that, but I'm saying there's something there, you know, like that's completely like unique, you know, like DeMar and Kyle have figured it out a little bit, you know, like, and
you know who loved it there? My buddy Jalen.
He did.
He loved T-Dot. Yeah. He's like, I don't understand why anybody doesn't think that's one of the best places for an NBA player to play. He had like the best time there. Yeah. I think he might have had too good of a time.
Yeah, it's a great city. Unbelievable city.
Yeah. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a lot of attractive women in Toronto from all different types of cultures. And there's a lot of bars and restaurants and things that stay open late. It's a very fun place to play.
Well,
and as Jalen said, when you're using Canadian money, you don't know how much money it is. So you feel like you have more money than you actually have, or it's different, and I don't know. He has this whole Canadian money.
Have you been to Toronto?
I've never been to Toronto somehow.
No, you have never been.
I love Montreal. I don't know if that's sacrilegious to say that.
You've never been to Toronto.
I'm due.
You've never really been to Toronto.
Kept waiting for you guys to make the finals. So when you made the finals, I was going to go.
Man, you have no rights to comment about Toronto. Like until you come to Toronto and you feel it and you see it. Yeah, you gotta come.
Maybe I'll do it this season.
You have to. That's one of the best cities in the world. Did you know that?
No, I'm fully aware.
Yeah, it is. I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just telling you it's one of the, regardless of sports even, that's one of the best cities in the world.
So that's why you've had overtures. You never wanted to leave. You love Toronto.
Toronto is phenomenal. I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I have unbelievable ownership. I have unbelievable job. I'm blessed to look at the journey, the story, you know, like for me, it's giving me a unique opportunity, you know, and I can't complain at all, you know, like who am I, you know, like I have to pass it on. Somewhere, somehow, we have to pass it on, and we have to win. Like, there's nothing in sports, Bill. You have to win in sports. There's no other way. There's no other way. You must win.
How many people report to you now?
I don't know.
How many people work for you? 20, 30?
Now maybe close to 50.
50.
Yeah.
What's your best management advice?
Best management.
Yeah, this is a good question. You never got this question before.
I know. I never got this one before. You just put me on the spot.
Well, I have a lot of people that work for me. I'm always interested to see what other people.
Best management advice. Man, okay, I got it.
I knew you'd get it.
Yeah. Be more passionate than ambitious.
Wow. See that? Oh, Tommy's excited. Mm-hmm. Tommy was worried for a second. Be more passionate than ambitious is great. I like that. I would say also trust the people in your inner circle.
Yes.
Is another good one.
It's a big one.
You cannot win if your inner circle isn't empowered and good at what they do, and you hire them, and it's your job to stick up for them and make sure they do well.
Can I say another one, Bill, which is I think is very underrated, you know, and I don't know. Hire women. yeah. And I'm not just saying it, you know, like I'm not really like there's something about them that brings us to a level that where we think better, you know, like I really do, where our egos start to get, you know, like in crazy places. If you hire the right, I have a couple that work for me and they're really, really good, brutally honest, very good, very level-headed, you know, like, yeah. And they just have a good way, you know, like of putting things in perspective. So
I would say, like, even the one thing I've learned from Grantland here is like diversity of who's around you.
Diversity is big,
and not just like what people look like,
yes,
and male or female, stuff like that, but like backgrounds,
unique backgrounds, you know, like
where
wherever
do you come from and what did you learn, and
exactly,
what are you bringing to the table that I'm not getting from this person, this person.
It's so important. But the one you said, you know, like in trusting the people that you work with, you know, like everybody.
Well, one way I know that you have a good team is your shit doesn't leak. Your stuff doesn't get out when the Raptors are like sniffing around on somebody. I'm not reading about it immediately on 3 places. You know, you have a very. I'm sure, like these days, you're probably terrified all the time that anything you're talking about is going to get out at all times because of the way Twitter and hearing this and hearing that blah 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 is blah blah blah, and you're just like, where'd that come from? Wait a second.
Can I tell you this story when we went to scout? War in Madrid or somewhere, and I remember it's myself, Weltman, and Bobby Webster, and it's, I think trade deadline might be coming close or something, and I like to take the staff, you know, like on those kind of trips because you're just together and you just keep talking and talking. So I will go with like 3 guys, 4 guys, and we're at this dinner table and we're talking and talking, and this guy is sitting down next to us, and it looks like he's waiting for somebody, you know, like by the time we finish, you know, like nobody comes, you know, like, and he eats his food. We get up to go, you know, like, and I put my jacket on, and he goes, "Hi, Mr. Ujiri, you're doing a great job in Toronto." And I swear, I don't know what we could have been talking about there. You know, like, with your inner circle, you're talking you're discussing and all of that, you know, like, and then somebody just right next to you, you know, like comes and says, "Hey, you know, like you're doing a great job." And I'm like,
you're like, "Oh my God."
I looked at Jeff and Bobby, and then I'm like, what the hell did I say? And I'm trying to like rewind, you know, like all the things that we talked about, you know, like, but it's a different world, you know, like, but as long
by
as
the way, that's happened to me a few times. You can kind of tell though. You probably weren't looking for it, but you can kind of tell when somebody's listening. I've had dinners in close quarters where talk about like ESPN stuff or whatever, and I could see somebody kind of eating, you know, like you could see them leaning toward you. Like, all right, okay, hold on. we have a spy. I had dinner once when I was with 2 of my good friends, and I was joking about, it was right when I didn't know whether I was going to come back to ESPN or not, and I was joking about I should just go back to Boston and do local radio, and somehow somebody overheard it at another table, and then it became a blog post story the next day.
Wow.
Simmons talking about going back to Boston. I'm like, I was drunk with my friends having dinner, talking about like going back and being on the freaking Drive Time show. But that, you never know. You never know who's listening in this day and age.
You never know. I listened to your podcast with Bob Costas, by the way.
Yeah. He was great. Yeah, he is great.
I had breakfast with him and Jeff Weltman, and you guys were talking about Jeff Weltman's mom.
That's
actually,
right.
You know, like I was trying to count. Yeah, I was trying to count how many people in when I was listening to it that I actually like know. You know, like, and the ones that I don't know. You know, like, but it was really interesting. And then there was Jeff's mom and Bob Costas and Ahmad Rashad and all these guys, and it tells you about the basketball Doug, you know, like it just tells you about the basketball family. It's crazy how it all comes around, you know. You got to be good to people, Bill. It's good. I think it's important in in life generally, like, because it seems like in our league, I think it comes around, like it's pretty cool league.
Masai, I wish you the best of luck on the Raptors, except when you play the Celtics. And tell Jonas to calm down against us. He can still have a good. He doesn't have to destroy us. He can have like a half decent game. He doesn't. Although we have new guys to throw at him this year.
I'll pass.
We have Aaron Baines.
I'll pass on the message to Jonas. Text him.
Tell
text
Jonas
him.
Aaron Baines isn't going to let him shove the Celtics around like he usually does. And we can't. We've never been able to guard DeRozan. I don't know. We have basically only have 4 guys from last year, but DeRozan's always done whatever he wanted.
I'm not going to sympathize with you in
I
any
know.
way.
DeRozan's
like
good at basketball. What do you want from me?
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
That's it. Thanks so much to Masai. Thanks to Chris Ryan. Thanks to SeatGeek. Don't forget, go to SeatGeek.com or the SeatGeek app. NBA Palooza is the code. $30 off NBA tickets. First time you use SeatGeek to buy NBA tickets. Thanks to Sonos for epic sound you can feel from a speaker you'll hardly notice. You need Playbase from Sonos. Playbase adds pulse pounding sound to whatever's playing, from movies and sports to TV, gaming, music. You don't even need to read the manual. The Sonos app guides you through every step of the setup. One power code and then one optical cord, all it takes. Everything sounds better on Playbase. See for yourself at Sonos.com, where right now you can get up to 10%. You can get 10% off one order of $2,500 or less for any product on Sonos.com. All you have to do is use promo code Simmons10, Simmons10. That's it. We have one more BS podcast coming up on Friday. Don't forget about Cousin Sal, the one we did on Monday. Don't forget about Jack Al on Tuesday if you missed those. That's it for the BS podcast. Don't forget about my column on Friday. That's coming too. Enjoy the rest of the week.